ladies and gentlemen. It's Max with Lunar Replicas, and we haven't done one of these in a while. Again, I'm going to check on here to see if it's going through and see if we're live. So we have a new setup here, as you can see in the background. This is a whole new office. Checking if the sound is good. Can you guys hear me? Can anyone hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1. It's a little. We have a new setup here, as you can see. Oh, let's turn the volume up a little bit. Is that better, or is that too hot? I'm checking. Sound is good. Can you guys hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. All right. Well, so I'm seeing you guys comment, and I'm here. This is great. This is great video. Seeing everyone, guys. It's the 50th anniversary of Apollo 15. I can't believe we're here. Today is the anniversary of the final EVA, and eventually the taking off from the moon, leaving the moon, and reconnecting with the command module. As you see back here, our Apollo 15J mission, CSM. And we're going to do a little show and tell, little chit chat. If anyone has any questions, anything they want to chat about, put it in the comments here. Hey, Jonathan. Hey, guys. Well, there's a few people joining us tonight. I got an email from a good friend of a friend of Lunar Replicas, and said we have to do a live stream for their Apollo 15 at the very least. So we are going to do one tonight, and I think that there's some more that we can do. One of the somber moments of Apollo 15, otherwise very, very successful mission, one of the first scientific missions of the truly scientific missions of the Apollo program. They left a plaque on the moon, which we're honored to be able to recreate recently, and they're now available on the website. They're on sale today for the rest of the week as well. Check that out on lunarreplicas.com. The 14 names of the astronauts and cosmonauts that had been released at the time, anyway, who had died in the pursuit of crewed spaceflight. Placed on the surface of the moon by the crew of Apollo 15 at the Hadley Apennine Mountain, the foot of the Hadley Apennine Mountains, 26 degrees, 4 minutes, 54 seconds north, 3 degrees, 39 minutes, 30 seconds east. If you were traveling on the moon, that's exactly where you would find this plaque with the 14 names of Charlie Bassett, Pavel Balyayev, Roger Chaffee, Georgy Dobrovolsky, Ted Freeman, Yuri Gagarin, Ed Gibbons, Gus Grissom, Vladimir Komarov, Viktor Patsayev, Elliot C., Vladislav Volkov, Ed White, and C.C. Williams. Those 14 names are forever on the surface of the moon. It's a very important thing for us to be able to do this. And we know this is an exact copy. This is exactly what was put on the moon. Very similar construction, and they're aluminum. We make two versions of them. One is exactly what they brought on the moon, sort of a matte finish aluminum with a, we have a little sort of plaque on the back there. And they are, they're neat. And then we also do a wooden version, sort of a little bit nicer made, with a brushed aluminum look, with a little plaque at the bottom here. They're not exactly the same size. They're sort of, this is scaled down a bit to fit on the plaque. The full-size one is a little bit larger. In any case, Apollo 15 memorial plaque. Really important thing that we came out with. We're thinking about that for over a year. We wanted to put it out for the anniversary, which is right now. So, show and tell time. We have a few things from the Apollo 15 mission. Of course, they wore their Speedmaster watches in space, but these were put out a little while ago. This is a screw that came off of Apollo 15's command module. So this is right off of Endeavour, taken off in 1971, right after it came back from the moon. They were doing the post-flight survey. An engineer, Donald T. Hamilton. And I'm not sure what the screw's purpose was. I don't know if it was a panel screw or somewhere else in the command module, but this flew to the moon on the command module Endeavour on Apollo 15. Somebody put together a really nice display case for it, too. Launched July 26, 1971, returned 12 days later. Another item, and this just came in, actually. Jay says hello. Hi, Jay. We got a few people watching us tonight. In addition to the Speedmaster watches and the Bulova watch that Dave Scott brought with him, his personal Bulova watch that Bulova had given him to bring on the mission to try out and possibly lobby NASA to approve for space flight. Didn't wind up happening, but he did wind up using it on the moon. So that's kind of cool. And it went up for auction. Somebody now owns that. Is a Bulova stopwatch, a standalone Bulova stopwatch, just like a regular track stopwatch. Though the Speedmaster watch, of course, also acts as a stopwatch. It is a chronograph, so it has the stopwatch and 12-hour timer function. This is a 30-minute timer and a full 30-second. Oh, it's only 30 seconds. That's neat. So what's really neat about this watch, actually, which I just got the other day, is the movement of the watch doesn't stop and start when you push the stop and start button. The movement actually is once you wind it, the movement is ticking away all the time. So it maintains an accurate beat. When you turn the hand, when you click to start the timing, it merely clutches in the hand on top of the already beating watch, which makes total sense. It's instead of stopping and starting a movement, which can have slow spots and high spots, and the movement is always running as long as it's wound. So I'm going to wind it up. Can you guys hear that? Can you hear the winding? It's always wound. You hear it ticking away. It's ticking away, but you see the hands aren't moving. So the movement is running in the background. I guess this must be a very accurate pocket or a very accurate stopwatch, because it doesn't the hands are not controlling the movement. It just clutches in on top of it. So what's neat about this is, if you can see that, whoops, there we go. So to start the time, this is exactly what Dave Scott used in the command and lunar modules, and some folks can fill in exactly what he did with it. I believe this is the original is in a private collection now, but this is the same type that he used, same vintage style Bulova timer. So timing is started. That second hand is clutched in. I guess it's a 30-second hand, so it rotates twice per minute. So it's a 30-second hand. Now watch this. If I touch this button, I can actually have a split time. You see that other hand stops, but the primary hand keeps going. So I split time. Now I'll reset the split time. See there? And I can pause the main hand, start the main hand again, or split time again, reset the split time. And it's just a really cool watch. So then I can stop it and then reset completely. The subdial back there tells you how many minutes have gone by. So it'll do 30 seconds, then another 30 seconds, and it'll then switch to the 1. It'll do 30 seconds, and it'll be between 30 and the 1, and then after a minute, it'll be at 1. So I'll time us for a little bit here. You hear that in the background? Let me hear what that sounds like. Is that cool? That sound was heard in the command module and the lunar module. Neat. Let's see if I can. That's great. All right. So, couple of things from Apollo 15. That was the screw brought to the moon in the command module. Of course, we have one other piece that was brought to the moon on the command module, and that is Al Warden's original flown sunglasses case. And this case, made out of beta cloth and plastic, is what held his sunglasses inside for the mission. And you can see it is nice and well used. And actually, after the mission, he brought this on Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. He brought a couple of neat things. He brought his shears, his spoon, toothbrush, his sunglasses, and a PPK kit. One of the PPK bags, a pilot preference kit. And that was on Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And he showed how they ate food on Apollo 15, where they sliced open a packet, heated up with some of the hot water through the command module hot water system, and enjoyed spaghetti. He showed spaghetti to Mr. Rogers. And there were several episodes of him being on Mr. Rogers. Unfortunately, you can only see clips of it on YouTube. The full episodes have not been released, but that's our little show and tell. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to see, so the reproduction that we're making is here's the original. Here's our reproduction. We do make them just a hair bigger so that they can be used with modern sunglasses and everything. But other than that, they're pretty close. But that is the original flown on Apollo 15, 50 years ago today. This was orbiting the moon. So look up at the moon tonight and think of Dave, Al, and Jim. And, think of the scientific stuff that they've done. Some of the science they performed on that mission is still being used, the cartography and analysis of the rocks and stuff. And these guys were an all Air Force crew who thought that maybe they could be the first lunar scientists, true lunar scientists. And they had a great time. Actually, it was a really good mission. Very, very good mission. Anybody have any questions while we're here? I do have a little bit more show and tell, so stick around for a couple more minutes. I see a few people watching right now. What are you guys up to tonight? And where are you? Post in the comments. Where is everybody and what they're doing to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Apollo 15. Wait a minute. We're going to get the command module over here. The J mission Apollo command module. Now, one thing that's missing from this model, which would have been really neat, is if you could take the panel off of the sim pack. I believe it's over here, this panel, because that would have been open during flight. While this is in this configuration, would have been when they were flying with the lunar module not attached, the lunar module on the surface of the moon. The sim pack would have been the panel would have been away, and they would have been viewing the surface of the moon and performing experiments and stuff. Al Warden, our dear friend Al, would have been performing experiments on that scientific mission. So this is neat. You see the large antennas, the high gain over here. The SPS engine, you guys all know that, very powerful engine that would make the course corrections and the trans-Earth injection burn to get back to Earth. Get out of the moon's orbit and get back to Earth. Apollo 15. What else can we show? Oh, so we have been working on another jacket project for over a year now. And that jacket project is the survival jackets. This came out, not exactly sure the date, but they came out around possibly in the Gemini period. And this jacket was designed to be much like the red survival flight suits that were in use by the Navy and the Marine Corps at the time, and I believe the Air Force to some degree. This jacket was just survival all the time. It wasn't like the lining of the main shuttle jacket or the main flight jackets during the Apollo program, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo program, or Gemini and Apollo anyway. This jacket was always orange, and it is the same color. It is the same material as the lining of wait, the light's kind of in a weird position here, but in any case, it is the lining material of the Type 1 and 2 jackets as the outer shell of this jacket. Right there. It's the same jacket as a Type 1 jacket. It has the exposed zipper pocket. Look at that on camera. It actually looks like it doesn't match as much, but to the eye, it actually matches pretty closely. This matches the orange. So do the snaps. But on camera, it looks a little bit different. Jay, it's your birthday today. Wow, congratulations. Happy birthday. Are you 50 years old? I'm just kidding. I'm not going to ask. Then he'd truly be an Apollo 15 baby. So not only was this jacket different by having the nylon lining as the outer shell, the nylon lining from the Type 1 and 2 jacket as the outer shell of this jacket, but also its lining is actually a faux fur. This is like a faux fur, some kind of synthetic fur, and my God, is it comfortable and warm. I can see why this was deemed a survival jacket, because it really is significantly warmer. I mean, these are really just a windbreaker. They're designed to be in a climate-controlled cockpit. This is really designed, kind of like a bomber jacket, like something in a not climate-controlled, long-duration, kind of auxiliary role in another aircraft. And if you went down, I'd rather be in this, in the wintertime or in high altitude, And it's high vis. You know, that's the whole point. Is that, you know, if you're walking around in the mountains or something, they can find you. If you go down in the water and you're in a lifeboat, they can find you. Or if you're in just a life jacket, you're wearing this, and you'll stay warm because of the synthetic fiber on the inside. And I'm not kidding. It is very warm and it is very comfortable. And these are going to be coming out very soon. We're just finalizing some details to match the original. We have found that this is a prototype, and we've already found some of the issues that they solved on the original jacket, but we didn't notice during prototype phase. But for instance, the fur gets in the way of the zipper, and on the original they had folded it back and then sewn it down before it went into the jacket. So folding the fur down and sewing it. We're going to try that. If that doesn't work, we're actually going to try and shave the fur about 1/4 inch from the edge of the zipper, and that will help considerably shave, or, you know, cut it down so that it's very small. So the survival jacket, and we have photos of Apollo 12 actually training in these. We have photos of Apollo 15. I believe Jim Irwin is wearing one of these. The one that we have is on loan. Came from Walt Cunningham. So Walt's original jacket is what this is based off of. They did not have patches on them. There were no NASA patches on them at all, no mission patches as far as we can tell. So they will come bare. You can, of course, add whatever patch you wanted. They didn't even have a name tape, Velcro at all. It was just the jacket. And I'm not kidding. We're going to start doing, once we figure out that zipper area issue, this is going to be the lining we use for all of our winter jackets moving forward. It's just that good. I'm really impressed that we found this. This is exactly what was used on the original jacket. The original jacket we have is a little bit more matted now, obviously, but it is exactly the same material, and I'm super, super impressed with it. So that is the Type 1 survival jacket, which will be coming out in fall or winter. We'll start taking pre-orders for that pretty soon once we finish the prototype. Once we hammer out that detail with the zipper area sew down of the fur, the faux fur, then we will start taking orders on it. I think it'd be really neat to have those out. See some comments here. The lining is cozy, Jim. It's incredibly cozy. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it on right now, and then you'll see me sweat my ass off in my office here. Oops, probably should unzip the jacket before I start putting it on. If I can. See, this is the problem we ran into, is that the fur is getting in the way of the zipper. Now you'll watch me sweat and pass out indoors because this jacket, oh my God, it's just so comfortable. I can't tell you how comfortable this is. You're going to have to find out on your own. But it is very comfortable. And look how red it looks. On camera, it looks much more red than it is. It is like an orange, almost like a deep pumpkin orange. You've seen it before. It is the lining of the Type 2 and 1 jacket. The only thing it doesn't have, I'm surprised, but I guess it's not really a winter jacket. It's sort of an all-weather jacket. It doesn't have pocket warmers. You know, you'd think that they would put some of the that fur material, the fake fur, inside the pocket, and that would be a neat addition. Oh, little prototype hanging Chad there. This one really came together. We matched the zipper material exactly. It's sort of a dark gray zipper. We matched this, which is the pocket zipper is supposed to match the fabric as best as possible. Did I just drop out here for a second? Can you guys hear me now? I think I dropped for just a second there. Can you hear me now? Somebody comment, please. Have to make sure that everything's still working. This shows the bit rate and stuff now. It's neat actually how Facebook now has a lot of analytics and stuff over here. But it's warm. Man, that's nice. I'll never get lost in the wilderness. You'll see me for miles. Yeah, Jim, I got a notification that I dropped out for a second there. I just must have come back. But in any case, this was seen. Warren said there was a blue version of this too. There was a Type 2, which we'll be doing next. After this comes out, we'll be doing a Type 2 blue, which was a nylon blue shell, but with the same fuzzy fur lining. I can't tell you, it is really comfortable, really comfortable. I gotta take it off though because it's getting kind of warm in here. But we'll take that off. Any of you folks went to Space Fest? We'd love to hear. I'd love to hear how everybody did at Space Fest. If everyone is still, still. I know that there's a high of that event, and it's like being reuniting with a family after, a year of being apart. In this case, 2 years. And I was unable to go, but Jesse fortunately was able to go, and Jesse set up the booth there, and I know he spoke with a whole bunch of people that came out, and I saw a lot of orders came through after that, and a lot of people reached out about stuff they were interested in and stuff that we might be coming out with in the next couple of weeks and months. And I can tell you there might be one or two more Apollo 15 things to come out. If we can, it'll be after the anniversary, but it'll still be within the anniversary year here. Well, I could tease it. We're looking at doing the recovery hats for Apollo 15. And can I share my screen here? Is that possible? I cannot share my screen. Oh well. In any case, we have a picture of it. I'll post it up in a little bit, but we have a prototype picture, and then of course the picture of them on the USS Okinawa, and what that hat looked like. The Apollo 15 recovery, which was August 7th, so that would have been, I guess, a week from Saturday. So Saturday is the anniversary, and that hat says USS Okinawa Apollo 15, and the astronauts it was one of the first times that they didn't have their names on it. It actually was sort of just the standard crew hat, which was USS Okinawa Apollo 15 with a gold outline. They had the farts and darts, the U.S. Air Force brims on them, but that's the only difference between theirs and the standard jacket. Jay's question real quick was, will the blue winter jacket have patches? Yes. Yeah. So what we have found is the guy that wore the winter version of the blue jacket the most. It's like a Type 2, but with a blue nylon outer shell. Sort of like a powder blue. It doesn't match the NASA blue exactly, but it's sort of a very similar blue. It's a style Type 2 jacket, winter. Gene Cernan wore that most of the time. So there's photos of him training and doing stuff for Apollo 10 and Apollo 17. Well, not so much 17. By 17, they had switched over to the Type 3 jacket. And that's kind of how we wound up with the Type 3 gold winter jacket, was because Gene Cernan wore his blue winter jacket all the time. And there wasn't, as far as we can tell, an actual Type 3 winter jacket, but we thought we would make it anyway. And it's very comfortable and it looks really cool. And it's relatively waterproof. So it's a great winter jacket. If we do that style again, if we do another run of those, we're going to use this lining, the comfy fur lining, the faux fur lining, because man, that stuff's, it's just so cool. As opposed to the fleece of what we did, which is a very high grade version of fleece. Actually, it's very comfortable fleece, but I really like the faux fur, and it's historic. That's what they actually used. Yes, the Type 2 winter jacket, the blue winter jacket with fur lining, will have patches on it, because as far as we can tell, that's how they were. If you were to look up a photo of Gene Cernan here, I'm just going to Google this. Gene Cernan flight jacket. Well, his gold jacket comes up. There's a picture of the Apollo 10 crew in front of their Saturn rocket. And you'll notice actually that Tom Stafford is wearing a Type 1 jacket, and Gene is wearing his Type 2 that you can see it's kind of shiny and it's a different color blue. That's the Type 2 winter jacket. And that's what we're gonna make. That's, you know, as we always do, we make exactly what the real thing was. So we're gonna try that. As a side note, it's just kind of cool that when you type in astronauts' names and flight jackets, that photos of Lunar Replicas products come up in the first 10 items on the search. So that's kind of neat too. Just a neat little thing there. And Brandon, if you're out there watching, you come up. You are the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're the sixth thing that comes up when you say Gene Cernan flight jacket on Google image search. So congratulations, Brandon, you've made it. Hey, Pony, how you doing? So I don't know if you saw, but yes, the lining of the winter jackets will forever now be this faux fur. Once we figure out, mind you, the zipper area issue. So that's just, again, the original one is kind of diligently folded over and sewn so that the pile of the fur, it does not interact with the brass zipper, which it's not a huge deal. I've zipped this up a number of times up and down, and really it's not that big of a deal, but it could be, and we want to make sure. Also, we just want to make sure it's as accurate as possible. So we'll take it away from the zipper there and save everyone the heartache of getting stuck in their Apollo jacket forever, which, I mean, that wouldn't be a problem for me because I wear one pretty much every day. And I'm sure you do too. Boy, this is really ticking away here. So since we started talking, or since I started, well, when I left this on, it has been 22 and a half minutes where you can see the top of that tick over. Watch that middle, that subdial there. Watch, it'll tick over. Whoop, right there. Now it is 23 minutes. As a side note, if anyone is a big Star Trek fan, as many of you know that I am, certainly Pony does, because he's a big Star Trek fan too. The original series communicator, the Star Trek communicator on the original series, the hero models, and I think there might have been only one or two that actually worked, not worked, like they couldn't talk, they weren't radios, they weren't, in this case, this is the Wand Company made a beautiful Bluetooth version of this, and paired with your cell phone, it works like a real communicator. I mean, it's just so cool. With the moire behind this disc here, the way they got that to work on the original prop was it was a stopwatch movement behind, inside the prop here. There was a stopwatch, just like similar to this, inside the prop. And actually, there at the bottom here was a button, and when you push that button, the stopwatch, you'd click it and the stopwatch would start. And that stopwatch attached to one of the hands of the stopwatch was the card for the moire, the background of the moire, and the card would tick away. And because it was a 30-second stopwatch, it turned at exactly 2 RPM. And that's how they have recreated, I believe on this one. Does this work? Oh, it might not be charged up. Hang on. Oh, yes, it is. Connected. Away, and because it was a 30-second stopwatch, it's connected to my phone, which is watching the video. That's funny. These are phenomenal. If you can ever get your hands on one, they don't make them anymore, and they have shown up at what it used to be, I think probably about $150 or something. Now they're like $300 or $400 on eBay. But if you find one, totally worth it. They're so cool. It makes, if you're an original series Star Trek fan, or you just need a good Bluetooth speaker, this is a not promoted anything. The Wand Company makes some phenomenal stuff. So the Wand Company communicator, in addition to everything else, they actually scanned several, I think, surviving original Hero communicators. So in addition to it being awesome because it's a Bluetooth working communicator, and it answers by flipping it open, and you can stop the call by closing the lid. It works really, really well, and the buttons are intuitive and stuff for mute or switch calls or whatever. You can listen to your music through it. In addition to all that, it's a very accurate replica of a original series communicator. Couple of differences because it's a real working Bluetooth device, but its dimensions and stuff are exactly the same as a real deal. And I have the original one is based on a pencil case. Do I have it here? The original communicator molds were based on a pencil case, actually, from the 50s and 60s. And I have an original one of those pencil cases. I can tell you this is exactly the same size as the pieces of the pencil case that they used to make the bucks for the molds for this communicator originally. Surprised I don't have that here. Actually, I think it's in a box somewhere when I still move in my office. Let's see, what else? Apollo 15. It's quite a mission. Excuse me. Allergies. I apologize. Apollo 15, to me, other than maybe Apollo 11, is absolutely my favorite mission. It was very ambitious. The number of new things that they tried, and the fact that they were taking a craft that they really only just started getting to know and made significant changes. They added the extra weight of the sim pack. They added the extra weight of the rover that everybody loves. Was significantly a scientific mission. That's really why we were there. And they only had 3 chances at it. 15, 16, 17 were, scientific missions. 17 was a little bit truncated. I think they wanted to, as they depicted in the TV show, From the Earth to the Moon, 17, they kind of wanted to just finish on a high note, get them home safely. 15, I think they really packed in there. And kind of the writing was on the wall about the end of the program. I unfortunately never really asked Al about this when he was still alive, but sort of what they felt towards the end of, in their mission, if they knew that the budget cuts were coming and they knew that the mission would be, the whole mission of the Apollo program would be relatively truncated, and 18 would be canceled and stuff. I'm not sure when 18 was canceled. Guys listening here, maybe you can say, I wasn't sure what the date was when they canceled Apollo 18 and 19 and some of the other programs. I think the MOL had already been canceled obviously that was the Air Force program, but you know, I wonder if one of the things that they thought about was if they really knock it out of the park, if they, if it were me, I would wonder if I did a really amazing job at this scientific mission, this J mission, the first J mission, if they would extend the program, or we only have one chance. This is the only really scientific time, possibility for us to thrive on the moon. Is really kind of it, because Apollo's, 11, 12, 13 was a bust. So 11, 12, 14 were, some rock sampling and photo taking, and, some experiments. I mean, it wasn't all sightseeing. um, that 15 might be the only chance they get to do it. I mean, really, after 13, after Apollo 1, I mean, they knew that that the program was on shaky ground. They were being watched very, very closely for accidents and, congressional spending and stuff like that. And if there was another accident, I'm sure they probably would have canceled the program significantly. If 13 did not come home, that might have been it. And I'm not sure about that, but I would imagine that was at least a possibility, and probably a pretty strong possibility. So every mission had the possibility of being the end, because I don't think it was all set in stone. I think that pulling the plug was very possible after 11. After they got there, and we beat the Russians, I think everything else was kind of superfluous. I think there might have been a feeling that this has already been paid for, so we might as well do it. But everything beyond that, I think, got canceled for the most part. 18 and 19. And then Skylab was sort of, well, we have this stuff laying around, which was a phenomenal mission. I mean, Skylab, other than some of the early problems, seems to have done some really amazing work and paved the way for 30 years of the shuttle. Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good statement about Musk and SpaceX. Yeah, I mean they're on a very strong upward trajectory. I have a fear there that that's a very top-down organization, and if anything happened to Musk himself, or if he changed his mind, or who knows, if something happened financially with him, or legally, and it tied him up, that program might stop. I don't know. It's a private organization, so we don't know who is pushing all of the boundaries there. If it's just him, or if there's a lot of people that are moving, moving the way that it wants to. But certainly, I would hope that SpaceX takes on a little bit more of a scientific approach to their exploration, rather than just getting there. Apollo's 8, 10, 11, 12. Unfortunately, 13 and 14 seem to be they just got there and they did some stuff. I really don't know a whole lot about some of them. I just know the 15 really did a lot. But space tourism, I think, is important. It certainly has its place. And I think that the advancements that we make to make space tourism possible also allows scientific stuff to happen too. But I think that there needs to be some movement on more scientific missions rather than just space tourism. So that's my That's my little unqualified view on it. Um, yeah, Disney. I mean, so Pony says here that Disney ran a company very similar to Musk in that it's very top down and it's really his vision. Disney did have a very good vision, especially for some of the stuff that they built. You know, Epcot was supposed to be a test of a space station or a colony, another otherworldly colony. Could we be fully self sufficient on Earth? Maybe not just a colony. Maybe a cultivating unusable spaces on Earth. Redevelopment of brownfields or something. And now it's just a theme park. I mean, it turned into a theme park, and it's a wonderful theme park. But it never was his original vision, which was a space station on Earth, or a Martian colony on Earth, and that would have been very interesting. Biodome kind of project or more. We've now gone 35 and a half minutes. So I must have started 10 minutes in. I started talking about the Bulova watch. Bulova's a phenomenal company, by the way. They really lobbied hard to be on Apollo 15. They didn't like the idea that that Omega, a Swiss company, would get such a prestigious honorary, prestigious contract with NASA, which then led into the decades of history of Omega Speedmasters. Bulova tried to get in on that a little bit. It's funny enough, they didn't use one of their watches they built in New York. They used a watch that they contracted through Switzerland. It was a Swiss watch. It was a Geneva Space Compax that they rebranded it a little bit and gave it to Dave Scott to try and test out. And Dave, on his second of 3 lunar EVAs, during the second EVA, I believe it was the second EVA, when they were repressurizing the lunar module, the crystal on his Speedmaster watch popped off, which I don't doubt. I'm sure it must have happened. Either he bumped it against something or just the pressurization itself, something might have gotten stuck in there and the crystal popped off, or they pressurized a little too quickly or something. That could actually happen. Oh yeah, look at that. Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, Epcot. That is exactly what it was supposed to be. There's elements of it that survived. And then the World Pavilion, which is behind Epcot, is basically sort of a permanent World's Fair. It was really 2 parks combined. So this is all Disney World, near Orlando. So Apollo 15, Dave switched to his Bulova lunar pilot that they gave him prior to the mission to test out, and he wore it. I mean, he wore it on EVA 3 and he wore it on Splashdown. Kept it in a drawer, and 45 years later or so, he sold it at auction for, what was it, $1.5 million. It was the only lunar worn EVA watch to go up for auction, other than the stopwatch. I don't think he wore that on the surface of the moon, though. I think he might have had it in the lunar module or in the command module. Let's see. Dave Scott, Bulova watch. Sold for... How much did it sell for? 1.6 $1.6 million. It's quite a watch. And the modern version of it, the Lunar Module Pilot, which we carry on lunarreplicas.com, unfortunately right now we can't really get excuse me we can't get them for a decent price at the moment. They've gone up quite a bit. It is a pretty faithful reproduction. It's not a manual wind watch. The original ones were manual wind, not even an automatic. They were just like the Speedmaster doesn't wind itself. You have to wind it by hand. And it doesn't have 12-hour timing capability. It's only a 30-minute timer or a 1-hour timer or something. So that's not ideal. It would be nice if they changed that. They do have tenths of a second, though, which the original one didn't. But, you know, I don't know necessarily whether tenths of a second is absolutely required. But the case and the dial and the hands and the crystal are all pretty accurate to the real deal. I believe it's the same size, too. It's about a 44 millimeter watch. I'm pretty sure it's very accurate to the original. And we carry a copy of the, we make the watchband, the Velcro watchband that was worn with the watch on the outside of the spacesuit. And we make sort of another version of it that you can wear just on your wrist. Also correct to NASA, but that's not, I don't think Dave wore that. We have that on the website when they're in stock. Right now they're not in stock, unfortunately. But so Bulova never got the contract picked up for whatever reason. They lobbied. Dave used it. I'm sure Dave Scott might have said something, positive about it to NASA. And it, they still kept using the Speedmaster, and they still do. Never used the Bulova. Coincidentally, Bulova also made the watch for X-15 pilots. In this case, it wasn't a manual wind watch. It was an Accutron watch. So that means it was not a quartz movement. It was battery powered with a vibrating tuning fork that just moved the mechanical movement a lot faster than a regular hairspring did. So it's an electric watch, very accurate. At the time, they were waterproof. They're not waterproof anymore, but they were relatively waterproof. And a number of astronauts wore those too. They were they were called the Accutron astronaut. Really, they were made for X-15, and then I believe they were worn on several missions. The Glycine Airman was another watch that was worn by Apollo astronauts. Apollo 14, Pete Conrad, and on the Gemini missions too, he wore a Glycine Airman, which was a 24-hour dial watch with a date. And that wasn't automatic. That was not just a manual wind. It was automatic and a manual wind. 24-hour dial. So the hour hand only rotated once a day. It wasn't 12 to 12. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Actually, this cockpit clock, which is a Hamilton Elgin cockpit clock, that is a 12-hour or 24-hour dial. And these were used. Actually, one of the first Mercury spacecraft used this exact clock, and this is a manual wind clock. Also, is it running? It is running. See, what's neat about this? Actually, these were adopted by the Navy in World War II. The Corsair and the TBM Avenger all use this clock on their in the cockpit, and it is one of the most complex. I think it is the most complex mechanical cockpit clock. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 complications, and it's a 24-hour watch. It is a 24-hour clock with a hour hand, minute hand, and second hand. This dial is the second hand for the 24-hour clock. It is a stopwatch which times up to 60 minutes. I can stop and start that as a 60-minute timer. And it's an elapsed time clock. See the bottom dial there. It's an elapsed time clock up to 12 hours. And it tells the date. The civil date there. That dial right there tells the date of the month. You can set what date it is. And it's an 8-day clock, so you only have to wind it once every week. It is the most complicated. I think they had sometimes over like 200 parts in this thing, all manual, and they can all run at the same time. It all runs off the same wind. You wind it. It may have 2 mainspring barrels in here to run the whole thing. But this is one of the most phenomenal clocks. It is the 37500. This one's made by Elgin. They were made by a partnership between Elgin and Hamilton. Elgin in Illinois, Hamilton in Pennsylvania, right here, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we'll stop the elapsed timer and then reset. You'll see it'll go back to white. There, it's reset. And what's today? What is it? It is now, right here is 0:47 minutes. Is that, oh, 48. Oh, I'm off by a minute. Okay. And it should say it is the 3rd. Well, maybe the date hasn't switched over yet. Sometimes the date switches over later. So this is one of the most complicated cockpit clocks ever made. And they made thousands of them. They switched to a little bit more basic cockpit clock. This is a Waltham 8-day clock. This was in a lot of the cockpits on Air Force, also World War II, but they used this a little bit longer. This one was made a number of years later. This is the A13 cockpit clock, and it only has 2 complications. It's an hour and minute, and a stopwatch. A 60-minute timer stopwatch. So it doesn't have elapsed time, like the Hamilton Elgin does. I mean, this stuff, by the way, it's not necessarily directly, it is directly Apollo related and NASA related. These were used on NASA aircraft. They were right in the dashboard as a backup. By the Apollo program, I don't believe they were using any manual wind watches, and it is, I mean, it's a watch clock. It uses watchwork movement, so that it is vibration proof. It has a hairspring inside. We'll reset that. It has a hairspring inside that, rather than something else, it's a clock. Anyway, Apollo used electric clocks, I believe also made by Bulova, and they may have had an Accutron backup clock in the Apollo spacecraft, an electric powered Accutron clock, in addition to the clock that ran on the Apollo guidance computer, which was always running, except 13. They shut it down, and they used their Speedmaster watches on Apollo 13 to time the burn for trans-Earth injection, or to course correction, I believe, after they had to change their free return trajectory. And for that, Omega won the Snoopy Award. I could brought that out. I have an original Snoopy Award pin from the Apollo program, early Apollo program, which was a very prestigious award for contractors that contributed significantly to the safety and viability of the program. So Omega got that. Apollo 15 was this amazing, amazing mission, and they accomplished all their goals. Um, like I said, they weren't free of difficulty. Namely, part of it, Jim Irwin actually turned out basically suffered a heart attack on the moon. He was exerting himself way too much, and maybe there was some genetic thing there too that was just went undiagnosed. But when he got back, he had significant heart issues for the rest of his life, and I think that's early death because of it. But he had some trouble on the moon because of it as well. It was really, really packed mission. And Pony has a question. Do you know which Rolex? Do you know each Rolex takes a year to make? I didn't know that. I don't know if that's accurate either, but you can correct me or I'll look that up. That's interesting. I don't think a Submariner takes a year to make. I'm pretty sure those are cranked out. It might take a year or two to get one. they're always sold out, or somebody, the people, the gray market has bought them all up, and then you can't buy them. But in any case, it was very nice to do one of these again. It was nice to relax with you guys this evening and talk about some of the cool stuff, show you some of the things that flew aboard Endeavour and came back safely 50 years ago this week. Would have been very nice if Al had made it to the 50th anniversary of his flight, which he was so very proud of. And we've been thinking about him a lot this past week. Just, I was talking to somebody, just some jokes that he told and some stuff that he told about his mission. And read the book. Francis French and he wrote a very wonderful book, Falling to Earth, about his life and stuff. There's a few new books that came out recently, also by Francis and Al. The comic book, the kids book, which our son likes very much, with illustrations by Michelle Rausch. That's phenomenal as well. Astronaut Al Goes to the Moon. I believe that's what it's called. Is that what it's called? Let me double check that. Yeah, Astronaut Al Travels to the Moon. And Falling to Earth. In any case, everyone have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your 50th anniversary of Apollo 15. Maybe we'll do another one of these later this week, see if some other folks want to join us. And I hope you all have a good evening and have a lovely rest of your week. We'll see you guys all in a little bit. Talk to you soon.